When you imagine the richest people in history, you may assume a modern billionaire like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, or Elon Musk to hold that crown. As of 2021, Bezos was the wealthiest of those, worth an estimated $177 billion according to Forbes. But he's far from history's richest person. Back in the 14th century, Mansa Musa was the ruler of a West African empire and was said to be worth more than double that, around $400 billion by today's money, accounting for inflation. Such wealth is often hard to imagine, so for context, this figure is the same as the national gross domestic product of Norway. Musa was so wealthy that his lavish gifting crashed a regional gold market for a decade, and quite literally put him and his empire on the map. Much of Musa's early life is lost to history, but what we do know is that he was born around 1280 AD in or around the Mali Empire, and ascended to the throne around 1312. How he found himself in power is an interesting story, though it is contested by some historians. The story goes that Musa's predecessor, Mansa Abu Bakr, Mansa being the title rather than first name, roughly meaning emperor or sultan, took a massive fleet of ships to embark on a voyage to see what lay beyond the Atlantic, leaving Musa behind as his deputy. This was centuries before Columbus discovered the Americas and suggested the great wealth at his disposal to be able to afford such an endeavor. But Abu Bakr never returned. Some believe he reached South America and settled there, though there is no evidence of this currently, while others say his fleet likely sank during a storm. Either way, Musa's temporary position was now permanent. The empire he inherited had flourished over the centuries from a small chiefdom into a massive empire, spanning 2,000 miles across the African continent and encompassing parts of modern-day Guinea, Senegal, Mauritania, Niger, the Gambia, and of course, Mali. Musa's reign saw the peak of Mali's fortunes, and at its greatest, it contained 5% of the world's population, and was financed by trading gold. Musa once claimed gold grew like plants in his kingdom, and though he was obviously exaggerating, it wasn't far from the truth. Nearly half of all gold bought and sold in Africa, Asia, and Europe came from just 3 Mali gold mines. The Mali Empire was also rich in salt, which, in the 14th century, was an equally valuable resource all over the world. Acquiring this wealth on his succession to the throne, Musa did not kick back and live out the rest of his days in comfort. Far from it. He saw a massive expansion of the empire's borders, enveloped cities like Gao and Timbuktu, the latter of which he turned into Islamic center of education, religion, and trade, and completed various construction projects inside his empire and out. Whether Musa was a generous philanthropist, a tactical ruler trying to manipulate trade markets, or simply someone with more money than he could ever hope to spend in his lifetime, during his long reign, the Mali Empire became recognized across the world as a rich, powerful, and almost magical place. Perhaps no point of Mansa Musa's life sums up his limitless wealth like his Hajj from 1324 to 1325. The Hajj is the Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca in modern-day Saudi Arabia, associated with the Prophet Muhammad and one of the 5 pillars of the faith. It is considered a mandatory religious duty of all Muslims to complete the Hajj once in their lifetime, and in 1324, Musa, a devout Muslim, set off to complete it. His journey from Mali to Mecca was 2,700 miles long, but the richest man in history was sure to do it in style. His traveling troupe has become a thing of legend. It contained 60,000 men, some of whom were heralds carrying gold staffs, some trained soldiers there to protect him, and as many as 12,000 slaves. These carried Musa's gold on their backs, totaling 21 tons between them, the equivalent of almost $1 billion by modern gold prices. There were also around 100 elephants and 80 camels that carried enough food and water for everyone, along with almost 300 pounds of gold dust, like loose change should he need it. He lavished this gold on the poor as he went, always being sure to mention who he was and where it came from. In fact, he gifted so much gold on his journey to Mecca that he actually crashed the gold market for a decade in North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. This is the only account in history of a single man directly controlling gold prices to this extent. Some cynics suggest this was an intentional ploy by Musa to drive trade and attention to his own empire. With the price of gold falling in places like Cairo and Medina, he was happy to point to Mali as an alternative. But others dismiss this by pointing to his great generosity and willingness to spend money on things not directly related to trade, such as building mosques and universities. These alternative accounts claim he realized his mistake on the return leg from Mecca and borrowed all the gold he could carry from local moneylenders at high interest, trying to rebalance the markets. Whatever his agenda, Musa certainly spread his riches during the pilgrimage, but he was also sure to spread his faith as well. Every Friday, he ordered a new mosque to be built, no matter where they were, and he became a central figure of the Muslim world in his lifetime. Returning to Mali with his Hajj complete, Musa set his sights on construction, building palaces, mosques, and universities throughout his empire. But his pet project, so to speak, was Timbuktu. It had been annexed before his pilgrimage, taken back by his enemies while he was away, and only recaptured as he re-entered his own borders. From then until his death, Musa sought to make it the center of faith and education in the Islamic world and a primary hub in the gold trade. He had the Djinguereber Mosque built in the city on a budget of £440 of gold, as well as his great University of Islam, Sankore Madrasa, which held the largest collection of books in Africa since the ancient library of Alexandria. Both of these buildings still stand in Timbuktu today. To help with his construction projects, Musa brought many of the most skilled architects he could find back with him from his pilgrimage, as well as world-famous artists and scholars to his great city to boost its culture and reputation. But while his biggest projects were focused around Timbuktu, he did not neglect the rest of his empire. Mali contained at least 400 cities during the height of his reign, all densely populated, and he was beloved by his people. The date and circumstances of Musa's death are not known for certain, but modern historians generally agree he likely died around 1337. The Mali Empire continued to exist until the 17th century, though by then its best years were long gone. Around 1670, it disintegrated under pressure from the rival Bamana Empire and was divided into smaller chiefdoms. But modern-day Mali still has signs of the legacy Musa left behind. Both his mosque and university in Timbuktu are still standing today, and throughout Western Africa, the language, customs, and Islamic faith all spread. After his remarkable journey in 1324 and 1325, Musa became a famous figure across the Eurasian continent. He was so successful in promoting the Mali Empire, in fact, that it was included by Spanish mapmakers who chronicled the key trade centers across the world. Created in 1375, the Catalan Atlas shows the empire sprawling across the African continent. Musa was well known by this point, and despite being dead for decades, an image of him was included on the map, sitting on a throne, clutching a golden staff and gold bar. This signaled Mali was the epicenter of the gold trade, with his image inseparable from the idea of gold and wealth. So it is no exaggeration to say, Musa's wealth literally put him on the map. Help put us on the map by liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more. If you really want, you can even share it with friends and family, like Musa shared his gold.